Wow, so today I wanted to do a video about what it's like having to pass a DOT, Department of Transportation physical for your job. And maybe this wasn't the best time to do the video because right now it is rainy like usual because I am in Seattle. Give me just a moment here. Maybe we can find some cover under the trees. If you can hear some noise in the background, there seems to be some sort of a game going on where there is a announcer loudspeaker. I think it's like a soccer game or something like that. I'm at some sports center and I have to jump over this puddle. Okay, I think one thing about trying to film in the rain, I don't want my camera to get wet, but of course, the thing is, you can usually get under some heavy trees in the forest, and the rain doesn't quite reach down to the forest floor. Okay, so why do I want to do a topic about what it's like having to pass one of those physicals? Okay, I think I've probably mentioned before in a previous video I had a job where, well, I worked as a driver, so they would usually give you these monthly urine tests. This was just to test, I guess, to make sure that you're drug free so that you're safe to be on the road. So when you wonder why do people have to pass these physicals to be a truck driver, obviously you want people on the road to not be using drugs or alcohol, but there's actually other things that they test for, and there's a lot of things that could get you, either not hired for a job or fired from a job. And it can be something like having diabetes, having sleep apnea. There's different things that could make you not get hired. Oh my gosh, what is that noise? Can you even hear that? There is a train coming by. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I was not expecting that because it's very loud. Luckily, I'm using this mic. Okay, so let me get back to the beginning of what I've been trying to say. Let's say you wanted to be a. Okay, this is really loud. Let's say you wanted to be a commercial truck driver. This isn't like, when you go to get your driver's license test. This is, sometimes they do check your eyesight, things like that, when you try to get a driver's license test. To be an actual commercial truck driver, you have to pass like a physical exam. Like you have to go to a doctor, and when I remember when I went through the testing, they did do a urine sample. I don't remember them doing a blood sample, but I think sometimes, depending on the company you work for, there's, the Department of Transportation, DOT physical, but then the company you work for might have some additional regulations that they want you to pass. So of course they're going to make sure that you're not drinking and driving, right? Those are some obvious ones, but it's very important that you are a healthy person on the road. There's certain things where it's just an automatic, like, you won't be hired, or you might get let go from a job if you have any sort of hearing impairment or vision problems. Some companies might be flexible on that, but if you have any issues with your hearing or vision, it's just, for me in my situation, it was automatic, like, we're not even going to hire you. So what happened is, I'm trying to go back to the beginning of my story here. When I applied for a job that required me passing one of these physicals, a lot of times they will have you do the physical before they even hire you. There's some people that might hire you on and then you go through training, but then before they actually like send you out on the road, they have you take that physical again just to double check. And like I said, some of the things that they're checking for isn't just your hearing and your vision. If you have any sort of health problems, like I mentioned, if you have diabetes, if you have sleep apnea, there's other things that could get you disqualified. But if you're on any sort of medication, they may not hire you. Okay, so then I was in a situation where I got a job offer, and they asked me, or they at least explained to me right in the beginning, that the job does require that I pass these tests. And they said, okay, well, are you sure you can pass the test? And of course, I'm thinking, sure, I can pass the test. I'm in tip top condition, that's what I'm thinking. And they're like, okay, well, you can't be on any medication or else we won't be able to hire you. And, off the top of my head, I'm thinking, okay, you can't be on any medication. Like, aspirin, allergy medication, anything like that. They're basically saying you will not be hired. So at the time, I've probably mentioned this before, I've been diagnosed with asthma. I've been given medication, or asthma inhalers. There's different medication to prevent asthma flare-ups. So there was medication that I was on. And so then I thought, okay, well, I don't want to tell them I'm on this medication because I really want this job. So, in my mind, I was like, I think when I go in, I'm just going to tell them I don't take any medication. I'm going to completely stop taking all my asthma medication prior to the physical, so then that way nothing will show up if they do like a blood test or anything like that. And that was like my thought process. Obviously, I'm not thinking good here, right? Because like I mentioned, the whole reason we do these tests is because we want people on the road that are safe and healthy drivers. Okay, but the thing is, here I am, I'm trying to skirt the system by saying, no, I'm not on any medication. I completely quit all my medication just so I could pass this test. That was not wise either, because me going off my medication actually ended up having, health implications, which is not good. So I was putting my health at risk by stopping my medications. And, then I thought, okay, great. So now I'm going to really get this job because now I'm beating the system, right? They're going to hire me. Well, this is the other thing is, so I go in for the physical, and there's certain things they do in the physical where like they take a measuring tape and they measure your neck. Like if your neck is too fat, I guess you fail the test. I mean, like there were just certain things where I thought, oh my gosh, like, what if my neck was too fat? They do all these things. They ask, like, do you snore? And I'm like, well, I know I snore, but I thought if I tell them I snore, like, I'm not going to get this job. So it was almost like I felt like, okay, here's me trying to, like I said, cheat the system. You want to do all you can to pass this test. And it can be very scary because you really want this money that they're going to pay you if you get this job. And so here I am basically lying. I've stopped all my medication, but at some point I felt like I'm going to have to go back on the medication. And then what really concerned me is, well, at least the company I work for, okay, so they would have it set up so that you have like someone who's considered like your I don't know what the job title is, like medical officer, medical liaison, something like that, where it's like if you're working and you're hired and you've passed everything and something happens where you actually have to go on a medication, you have to report that to your company. But the person who was in charge of me reporting that to was also the person that's kind of in charge of the hiring and the firing. So I got very scared because they said, and it was even in the company handbook, that if for some reason like you had to go to the dentist and they do dental work on you and they give you like some sort of painkiller, that basically you have to report that to your employer. Which, there's a point where it's like, this is kind of like private stuff. Why do I have to like report to my employer every time I take an aspirin or, anytime like, I take cold medicine? So then it's almost like you can't be taking cold medicine. You can't be taking cold medicine and being on the road and putting lives at risk. So it's like, that's why you report it to them. But if you report it to them, there's a good chance you could like get fired or lose your job. Okay, so this is where I encountered some health issues when I worked for this company. And the reason why I mentioned the dental is because if you have to have any sort of dental work, and they're probably going to give you painkillers for that dental work, this was their policy, is that you immediately have to go on leave. You're not allowed to work. They would take you off your position for at least a month until you can pass a test that shows that medication is out of your system, so any painkiller that they prescribe to you. So I went into this, I had the job, and yes, I started having a little bit of tooth pain. So I figured, okay, well, this probably means like I have a cavity or something. I'm going to have to go in and have them look at it. And then it's like, okay, well, do you tell the dentist, hey, because of my job, I can't take any painkillers. Make sure you don't prescribe me any painkillers. It's like, okay, and then what? Are you just going to go through like them drilling into your teeth and pulling teeth out or whatever they end up having to do? You can just sit through that without painkiller. So then it's like, okay, well, basically that means I would have to report it to my job. Then the job is going to put me on leave, and then I'm basically not working. I'm not getting paid. I'm basically screwed. And then it's like, and then I have to wait until they actually allow me to come back to work. And just going through that whole process is almost like any little thing that happens to you, basically you lose your job. And so, like I said, when I started doing this video today, my idea was anyone out there that's ever have to pass one of these DOT physicals, you already know what I'm talking about, okay? So this video is really more aimed at people who don't really understand what it's like, that if you are not that healthy of a person, which obviously I've talked about on this channel, that my health is very important to me, and there are a lot of health issues that have come up recently with me. Those are all issues that if this was my career or my livelihood, basically I would be put out of work because of my health. And I have noticed, well, I did notice another YouTuber that was kind of documenting their weight loss journey, and I noticed that they happen to actually be a truck driver. And that really stood out to me because I thought, like, sometimes wanting to lose weight or getting in shape or whatever, getting healthier, is not just about fitting into your favorite skinny jeans. Sometimes it's like your career is at stake. You could lose your job if your weight is too high, or if the fact that your weight is too high, now it's triggering other issues with your health. And so that's why I can very much understand why it's important to some people that they want to lose weight, why health is very important, and how weight does play into it. I don't know why the stereotype of a truck driver is always some like big hefty guy with a beer belly, because I'm pretty sure someone like that probably is not going to have a very good career as a truck driver, knowing that they have to pass all these physicals. So I just had this on my mind. I just thought I would record it. And now I'm like soaking wet, right? It's raining. It's nice out, but it's raining. And I feel like the next couple of videos I make from now on are probably going to be pouring rain. So I'm not really sure the best way to film them. But thanks for watching today.